We good?
Guess we're good.
All right.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming up on a
Yeah.
Friday.
Of course, man. Of course.
Some traffic, right?
LA, man. Mudslides. It's been Seattle lately up here, dude. We're not paying for this weather.
Man, tell me about your background. You know, like everybody's always talking about your skateboarding and you and just yeah.
Yeah. I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, like the frozen tundra, the coldest city in America. Odd place to grow up skateboarding, but that's where it all started. And then
What do you do in the winter when it's freezing?
hockey. Hockey.
Everybody
That's it.
stops doing it.
That was my first
skateboarding.
sport. That was my first martial art because you grab the jersey and you start swinging, you know? So just play hockey, snowboard, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then transitioned out of that and got, I don't know, like a lot of hockey's kind of like rich kid sport, you know, like the richer kids would get on the good teams and, you know, it just like skateboarding
The
was
club
kinda
teams
like,
and stuff.
yeah,
Kind of like soccer.
and skateboarding was just like whatever you put into it, you get out of it, which I loved, you know? And then it's all I thought about, you know, but getting out of small town Minnesota is also not like the easiest thing to do. So I moved out when I was 19 and I had done 2 years of massage therapy school. And I had 6 months left before I had a degree. And on a whim, one of my friends was like, I'm moving to Long Beach. Do you want to sleep in the closet?
In the closet.
Yeah, because there was like 7 dudes in a 2-bedroom kind of situation. So I was like, screw it, I'll take the closet. That's fine. And I moved out with like $500 and a backpack, no car. And I worked at Subway in Long Beach.
Sandwich artist?
Yep, a sandwich artist. The guy that I worked, he was my manager. He was like a gangbanger, and he would just drink 4 Locos in the back. And that was who I worked with every day.
In Long Beach?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like some like ex-Cedeno guy who managed a Subway and just tried to live the skate dream. Just like took the plunge, moved out here. And then I ended up meeting somebody from Val Surf right down the street in North Hollywood. And he knew me for 1 day, and he let me move into his couch, got me a job at the skateboard shop. He's like, you're not working at Subway anymore. I'm going to get you a job over here now.
After one conversation?
1 day. We had a mutual friend in the Midwest, and we got kicked out of our apartment, the 7 of us in the 2-bedroom. After like a couple months, they kind of caught on and weren't really stoked on what we were doing there. So we got kicked out of there, and I was going to go home, and a mutual friend of mine put me in contact with somebody and was like, call my friend Trevor. He might be able to bail you out. So I called him, and I was like, I'm at the Long Beach bus station. I got like $400, and I'm trying to figure out like getting home from here. And you know, I didn't have the internet on my phone at that time. It was like 15 years ago. So I was at the library trying to book a flight, you know, and figure out how to like take a cab from Long Beach to the LAX. He was like, come stay with me. It's okay. He's like, I'm glad Dave had you call me. I was like, okay, cool. So
nice.
We met up, and then he was like, I like you. I'm going to try to figure out how to get you a job, in so many words. And ended up getting me a job at Val Surf right down the street from here, which is like the oldest skate shop in the world. I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew he worked at a skate shop, but that's all I knew. And then from there, I started managing the shop. Then I started helping out with the buying. And Val Surf has like a legendary skate team. They've been around forever and super respected in the industry. So I started like filming video parts, which I always wanted to do, because that's like the goal of like video parts are like belts for jiu-jitsu. It takes years to do one, and you only get a few of them, you know, and you really put your whole heart into every single one. So I filmed about 3 or 4 video parts. Each video part took like about 2 to 3 years, because each clip is only like 3 seconds long. Or if it's a line, like a couple tricks, it's only 6 seconds. So you can do that math with like a 4-minute song. Like that's a lot of tricks that you have to get. It's
a lot of reps, a lot of falls.
A lot of falls. Yeah, totally. Like you can take, I've gone back 3 or 4 times for tricks, and it's 3 seconds long. But that was a whole month of like effort towards something,
Trying.
of going back every weekend when the spot's open, going back. So like you'll put a month into 3 seconds, you know, and then there's multiple clips throughout that video part. So like just filmed a bunch of video parts through Val Surf, and got into one of the bigger magazines was Trans World, and I ended up getting a trick in one of their magazines, and basically made it farther than I ever thought I would make it, you know, for being like small town Minnesota kid. I had a couple tricks and some like major videos, just like a single trick, but still like to me that was like I never ever thought I would be there ever. And yeah, I don't know.
All from that guy's kindness, huh? Putting you into the shop, and
Yeah,
I like you.
Yeah, totally. He just like saw they were from the Midwest, and they were like, just this Midwest kid, just an idiot out here trying to figure it out, you know. And they gave me an opportunity, and then I just like, you know, busted my ass at the shop, wanted to learn everything, like how does buying work, how does the back end work, how does this work, and then I also skated, so it ended up being like a good thing for me, because like not only do you work at the skate shop, but you also are like skating really hard, which inevitably like people that talk the talk and walk the walk,
Yeah.
you know. So ended up kind of getting keys to the city there, and they like let me help with the buying and hired all the people I wanted to, and hired filmers, and then those filmers made videos. So it ended up being like a real dream situation that I never could have imagined when I like looking back, it like the Minnesota kid in me, if I would have known how far skating would have got and how amazing it would have got, I would have been like, I can't believe that, you know, like skating with my heroes, filming stuff, living in California. Like, I mean,
You did it.
This is what everybody dreams about, you know, and like I got to do it. So,
Well, one of the conversations we always have is how there are parallels with Jiu Jitsu and skateboarding.
tons.
It seems like every time we talk, it comes up. You know, it's like crazy, man. You have no idea.
I think inevitably it's like you get out what you put in. You know, like playing hockey, I could score 3 goals and lose the game, still lose. You know what I mean? And like, it's jiu-jitsu, skateboarding. It's all tribal. You know, like somebody could come on the mat with a black belt. One of us rolls with him, and we know if he's full of shit. We know if he's not a black belt, you know? And like there's a language that you speak, and it's like something you can't really identify. But like when I'm around skaters, like we speak the same language. I don't have to know them. I can like meet them at a park, and it's like, hey, we both put a lot of like blood into this, and like our lives you have to dedicate to be good at something. So it kind of creates like a certain kind of person, and you almost get along with like everybody. You know, it's like the same.
Deep respect.
Totally. And like, you know, like if I see a guy with like, you know, a jiu-jitsu hoodie on or something at the airport, I can be like, what up, dude? And he's like, oh, what up? We chop it up for a little bit. And it's just kind of like, hey man, like it's like the same community. And like skateboarding and jiu-jitsu both have that, and just martial arts in general. It's just like a respect thing. 'Cause it's like, I know you have to be like a particular kind of person, and somebody that I would probably like 90% of the time to be this. So like it already just cuts the mustard on like, do I got to know you, do whatever? I'm like, oh, you skate, oh, you do jiu-jitsu, oh, you train, whatever. I'm like, I probably already like you, you know, like we can get along in a lot of different ways. So
you're still out in Cali. Yep. From those early days.
Yeah.
Where you made it.
16 years ago.
16 years, wow.
I believe so, if I counted my math right. Which is crazy. Like I'm about 4 or 5 years from being dead even with like how long I was in Minnesota before moving here, which is crazy. I can't believe it's been that long. But
yeah, I've been out here for 15 years. My son's 15 and a half.
15? Where are you from?
Well, New Mexico.
Okay.
Originally. And then, but I went to high school in New York and lived in Germany when I was a kid. And then after high school, I went to Brazil.
That's about as cool as it gets. You really touched them all there.
So like, get my bases covered, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, man.
Yeah. But where I was chatting, so skateboarding comes up, and then the parallels of skateboarding and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's there. I don't think I like things that don't have repercussions, you know? And I also don't like things that don't make me like, there's like an aspect of like frustration and like winning and losing that I think I need in something, you know? I can like golf, but I won't love it. You know?
Yeah.
I can like other things. I can enjoy it, but
There's a danger, right, in Jiu Jitsu, and it's, you know, that makes like a respect, because the danger, the risk of getting hurt, the risk of, I don't know,
yeah.
you know, your ego, right?
I mean, the ego 100%. And that's the same in skating too. It's like you'll go try a trick for 3 hours, get completely smoked, barely be able to walk for a couple weeks, and like you'll be this close, but you just can't get it. And it's like, I think that aspect of like, so I actually ended up getting really hurt. I had like 4 reconstructive ankle surgeries.
Ankle, wow.
Yeah. So I was skating this rail and ended up like hurting my ankle really bad. And then they botched the first surgery, and I had to have 3 subsequent ones after. And I didn't walk for like an entire year, like 11 months, 11 and a half months or something. I was completely off because I had surgery. And
is it true that that your surgery gets botched, you can't sue the hospital or the doctor
it was
that botches it?
So my mom's a paralegal.
Okay.
And I'm not the suing type, you know? It's just like not in me to.
Yeah, they have insurance and stuff, it seems like.
Yeah, and ultimately I could have, and my mom basically broke it down to me like, do you want to like go through a whole bunch of litigation and all this stuff? And inevitably my ankle was still smoked. So I was like, honestly, no. I just want to be better. That's all I care about. But like not walking for a year was, because I was doing Muay Thai before that. I was skateboarding. I had gotten into Muay Thai for a couple of years, and to go from doing those things to nothing was one of the hardest situations I've ever dealt with, you know, real like identity crisis of like, okay, the things that make me, I can't do, and I have no timeline or even know if I'm ever going to be able to do them again. Because they were talking about fusing my ankle, which means I'll never be able to really like kick or skate or do anything. I went to 10 different doctors and paid out of pocket for all of them, because insurance doesn't cover everything, you know, especially if you're trying to get different opinions on like the most major thing. So I went to 10 different doctors and got 10 different answers.
Wow.
With the same 2 MRIs. I went in, I got 2 MRIs, and I would go and they would be like, you need this, you need this, you need this. And I would make notes on everything. And I was like, nobody's
completely
saying the
different
same thing. So what do? Just roll the dice?
That's very interesting, right? Because the MRI, I always think, you know, I tell people like it's an opinion. It's their opinion.
Yeah.
And you got 10 different doctors and they're all saying different things.
10. Literally 10.
And you wrote it down so you knew what they said.
Yeah. And every single one of those doctors was like cash pay, like $300 to $500. I got MRIs from sources outside my insurance to make sure that I was getting good, like a different one. So it's like, you guys would have everything you need. Here, tell me what I need. And nobody could tell me anything. And so that year of my life was like the worst, most eye-opening, like I don't have control. Like, and I think I've always kind of dictated, like, I have skating, I have these things, I have my friends, I have things, and then like being completely physically out of control of something, and then people telling me like, you're probably never going to walk again the same way, I'm going to fuse your ankle. A couple of them said they were going to fuse it. A couple, and I was like, hell no, you're not. I will walk around on crutches until I find somebody that says that I can't. And then I ended up finding a doctor who, she was like my last resort. It was a friend, like a reference from a friend. And she said, all these doctors are full of shit. And I was like, oh, and she swore. And I was like, oh, you're speaking my language. Like, why do you think that? She goes, because your MRIs are inconclusive. She's like, I'm going to have to go in. I don't know what I'm going to have to do. But clearly there's these things wrong. And like, I think there's something else. And she ended up doing an amazing job. And my ankle's at like 70%.
Damn.
Probably of where it used to be. So like I can still skate. I can't skate the way I used to. I can't really throw a lot of left kicks if I'm, you know, doing Muay Thai. sometimes in jiu-jitsu I have to sit out rounds or my ankle will cramp and I don't really say anything because I don't want to, make excuses. But I'm able to like modify and like still enjoy, get to be part of like the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
So, but that not walking for a year was insane.
What was the doctor's name?
Rachel Trish.
Damn.
At a Santa Monica Orthopedic. Shout out Rachel Trish.
Shout
wherever
out,
you
huh?
are. Yeah, she pulled me from the depths. And also like it was really weird because I mean you had MS, right?
I have it.
You have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like I mean I'm sure there was a time where you were off and not able to do anything.
I mean, yeah, you had a hard time speaking and walking and just a lot of things. And they told me I'm going to end up in a wheelchair and give me a stack of drug catalogs, asked me which ones I wanted to take. And so there's like, you kind of like, really? You kind of don't accept it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of basically the end of your life. And they treated me like my life was over. Like, sorry.
How long was the time period before you like figured out whatever rhythm you have now?
So I asked the doctor at that time, at the doctors when they diagnosed me with the MS, and I was like, can I still do jiu-jitsu? And he's like, yes, as long as there's no head trauma. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I was like, I guess I was okay with that, because I could still train jiu-jitsu, but then you have in the back of your head, like maybe in 6 months, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. And then I just kept at it. And then I saw, because I looked up all the drugs they asked me to take, and then I looked at, the results or the, whatever. I did some digging, and it says it may or may not help you, but there's side effects.
That's
right?
great. Yeah, but the side effects will definitely be there.
And then actually, Dr. Walls, she has a diet. She's an MD, and she had the best care possible because of of who she was. And she was getting worse and worse and worse with all the stuff that they were giving her. And then she started to, something's got to change. She was pretty much bedridden, and she started to study about the cells and mitochondria health and things like that, and with the foods that give them energy. And little by little, she started to get better. And so I saw her TED Talk, and I was like, okay, I can do it naturally. And so then that's all I needed to see. And what's funny is I just did a podcast with her this last month. It was like 1 year before I was diagnosed that she did that TED Talk. And that was a TED Talk that went viral.
Okay.
And she puts a lot of courses out and on studying, just the nervous system and how,
And you noticed better immediately when you started following the diet?
For sure. I mean, it was a process, I think too, I started competing in jiu-jitsu because I did like a world tour. I was like, man, maybe in 6 months I'm not going to be able to do this. So I went everywhere. Yeah. I'm going to go out on my shield if this is it,
Was it affecting your extremities, or like what made you aware that you had MS?
Well, every 5 years in California and in Arizona, in Nevada, they make you do a brain MRI for fighting. And so 5 years before, they found some lesions, smaller lesions in my brain. They let me fight. And then again, 5 years later, they found the lesions again, but they were bigger. And so they didn't let me fight. I was supposed to fight here locally, and they didn't let me fight. And then
what year was this?
This is 2012.
Okay.
And then they sent me to get more tests. And then after all the tests, they sorry, you have this. And then kind of death sentence,
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah, that's a lot of staring at the ceiling.
Yeah, and then the food started to help, so I was like, okay, I can do this naturally. But I had like a spiritual moment in jiu-jitsu when I was competing that it made me believe in my mindset and how important it is. And then I found Tacfit, and then just between Tacfit, the movement, and the correct kind of movement, just understanding like when you stress, but not too much stress, and how myelinization works. Because basically, what happens in MS is your immune system attacks your myelin, on your nerve. It's like the coating, and so it attacks that. And so when you train, a movement, for example, with stress, but not too much stress, you get like new brain cells. Your arborization, like the tentacles, get bigger, so you get more connected, and you get myelinization. And so that's why things started to work better for me. I couldn't like comprehend reading books. I wasn't dreaming, like a lot of like weird things, that I just like whatever, just keep going, you know.
Yeah.
And this thing started to come back the more I trained in Tacfit, and I was like, man, I gotta keep going with this because this is good for me.
Wow.
And yeah, fast forward, and you know, I'm involved now with Tacfit, and we want to change the world. You know, we want to help other people, because even if you don't have MS, it's all the right stuff that everybody needs to do to heal themselves. For example, your ankle, like you can heal yourself. You can till your last breath.
Yeah, and I'm always hurt. And you told me the other day, like, you got to start doing Tacfit. So I did it for like a week straight, and then went out and hurt myself again.
But I can show you some movements, you know, and you can just spend some time, like just play around, you know, like whenever you have time, like in the morning or whatever, whenever you have time, like just like mess around with the movement on your ankle, with your body weight and gravity, and then go into those ranges of motions, you know, because your body forgets, it gets that amnesia basically.
Yeah.
How to move in those directions.
Yeah. And then, like, inevitably, I think there's like the self-induced panic when you've had an injury that, like, you kind of will maybe baby something that isn't there, or there's like trauma with the situation where, like, sometimes I'll be like, my ankle, and then I'll be like, I think my ankle's okay. I think it's just like in my head.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Like, you know, I mean, a lot of black belts here, I shouldn't say black belts, students, you know, they have shoulder injuries, or they have whatever, any kind of injury. Before I would be like, sorry, you know, sorry to hear that, because they go to the doctor. And then because the doctor said that, they believe it, you know, because they believe it, that's, you know, maybe they're going to get surgery. But I'm like, hold on. Now I've been studying so much. I can see, like, I understand the body mechanics. I can see in the body. Let me see, man. Let me see. And I understand the movements that we do. Yeah. Like in Jiu Jitsu, or, you know, even life, right? We all sit down too much. Yeah. But like, let me see. And I have them do some stretches, and I'm like, it looks like your lats are really tight. Stretch out your lats. Like, I'm going to give you an example. Gus is like one of my examples. You know, Gus, one of our black belts here. Okay. Yeah. So he was like, hey, man, I went to the doctor. They told me I had to get shoulder surgery. And so I started, like, I was like, let me see. And I looked like his lats were tight, and I could see it through his shirt, you know? And then I was like, stretch out your lats, do this movement, like, every day this week, you know? And let me know how you feel after. He did it. He believed me. He did it. And guess what? His shoulder didn't hurt anymore. And he never had to get shoulder surgery. Yep. Yeah. And, like, I think they're so quick to jump the gun with that. And I tore my hip labrum. And I got PRP injections, and then did a bunch of physical therapy, and didn't have to get surgery. And I had like 2 different doctors be like, nope, you got to have surgery. There's always a way, right? I shouldn't say there's always a way, because sometimes the bones stick out. And you got to the doctor. Sometimes there ain't. And sometimes, you know, some of the drugs, you know, are good, right? But a lot of the times, like, hey, ask questions, right? And don't just say okay because they say so. Well, I think, like, there's the facade of what I didn't realize, and I wasn't like ignorant to it, but I didn't think I realized, like, until you get really bad medical advice, until those doctors laid those pills out, and then you were like, okay, do I want it was a lot of pills too. It was a lot of pills. Yeah, and like inevitably, like, you did your research and none of those work. Or when I had my botched surgery, I was kind of like, I didn't think they could screw this up this bad. Like, I didn't think it was this bad. And I thought that, like, the Dateline stuff about, like, surgeons or doctors or whatever, you're kind of like, oh man, like, I'm never going to run into like a quack. But also you realize, like, sometimes doctors just don't know. And, like, they don't know. They're not up to date is what I found. I shouldn't say I'm generalizing doctors, but a lot of doctors aren't up to date, you know, with fascia and just how the nervous system works. Yeah. And now working in the medical industry, I realized there's also the component of, if you're okay, depending on the doctor, not every doctor's like this, but, like, if the wrong doctor is suggesting you things, inevitably it's to get insurance authorizations, because they will get a portion of that money for doing whatever. And, like, and then the also thing of, like, we are different than, like, the business guy who hurts himself playing tennis. You know what I mean? Like, inevitably, I think the danger we put ourselves in all the time, we have to be in touch with our bodies. I mean, how many times do we roll when we're hurt? I'm never not hurt, and I roll all the time. So, like, I have to be keenly aware if I'm coming up to a bulldog position and my shoulder hurts, to not let someone get a wizard. And I have to, like, we're constantly aware of our bodies so much more than everybody. So, like,
we might know more than they do sometimes.
That's it.
Sometimes I'm a knucklehead,
Yeah.
and I don't, and I need like my physical therapist or someone to be like, hey, you got to stop for a minute and do this PRP and whatever. But a lot of times, like we're highly tuned in to what we're doing because we have to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Trust our own intuitiveness.
totally.
Yeah,
and
we know best. A lot of times.
Because I always think about this. Like, I think about if somebody had to jump down some stairs or get arm barred or something like that, or like fight out of like a really gnarly choke for like 30 seconds, that would be the craziest thing of their whole year. That would be like, what the hell happened today? Why did this happen? And it's like, I do that stuff all the time. You do that stuff all the time. You know, it's like we inevitably are in these like situations that like if you take the average Joe, they would crumble, you know? Like get smashed in side control for 2.5 minutes. Everyone else will be dead. We slap hands and bump the next round. You know? It's like people are not built the same, and like I'm not like tooting our own horns, but like there is something to that of like we are built different. So like the tennis guy, not the same as us for the same injury.
Character building, right? Like in skateboarding, and like it's tough, right? And you have to get back up
Always.
and keep going on. And there's every reason to not keep going, right? When you hurt yourself, and jiu-jitsu, same thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same mental battle of like when there's, you know, the dog in line at jiu-jitsu where you're like, all right, if I get, you know, Drew or someone like that, I'm like, this is going to be a roll, you know? Like you can always take the easy way out, or you can like face your fears.
Face your fears.
And
that's
the fear aspect to everything, to me, is the thing that like builds the character. You know what I mean? Like I respect all sports, but like I don't have to, if you and I are playing basketball, we don't have to worry about particular things. If there's something to the things that I like to do that apparently I need that weird factor. You know what I mean? Like I need that, like when I'm going to go roll with somebody, like I need to be like, oh, here we go. You know, like this is going to be a scrap. And like, I have to man up. I have to do this. And it builds character.
Yeah.
Because then like whatever you do on the outside, that's like one of the things that like people always say, but people always say it for a reason, you know, where people are like, martial arts, it like teaches you to, you know, do whatever in life. And it's like, it sounds corny as hell, but it is so true because most people that I know and train with have lives that they are not scared of. They take risks, they do things, they are brave in other things that they do. You don't find a lot of sedentary people who come on the mat and actually do stuff.
Yeah, that's it. How did you get into martial arts? You did Muay Thai first, right?
Yeah. So I was working at the skate shop, and there was this guy who was a rep for Independent, you know that brand? He would come in, and him and I were buddies, and he was kind of like a notorious ass kicker. His name's Jimmy. And I had started going to like LA Fitness and just being a butthead. I don't know what I'm doing, but just like chest, squats, stuff like that. Like the first time when you're like 25, or for like a skater, when like I never cared about being in shape. I was like, I skate all the time. I'm skinny. I'm fine. I finally started getting into shape, and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, you should do Muay Thai. I was like, what the hell is that? He's like kickboxing. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you'll get in shape and you'll learn how to drop someone. And I was like, that definitely sounds cooler than what I'm doing. And I went over to the Muay Thai Academy in North Hollywood. I stumbled upon it. I was looking for a skateboard spot. And I was like, that's that stuff Jimmy was talking about. And I just was like, screw it. And I went in and I wrote a check, and I was like, I'll talk myself out of this, you know? And then the next day I started, and I walked in, and there's people just cracking bags, whack, whack. And I was like, oh shit, here we go. You know, like, are these guys going to kill me? Like, is this who I fight? Do I fight the first day? And then, you know, started the process of like learning how to fight. Cause like, I never really, you know, you get in like little scraps when you're a kid, but like I never thought I would ever be like a martial artist. I even still feel weird calling myself that, but like, I never thought that would be anything I do. I was like, I skate. That's like what I do. And then I never thought anything was be as cool as skating. Like when I found skating, I was like, this is it. There's nothing cooler than this. And then I remember like the first month, I was like, this is another skating. There's something as cool as skating. And like martial arts is as cool as skating. Like I was just as stoked, started watching fights. Like I used to watch video parts, studying like what cool people's styles, like how do they kick? What do they do? What do they, you know? And then I did that for like 3 or 4 years before I got hurt. And then when my ankle when I went through the surgeries, one of my buddies was like, why don't you like come roll? Like you can't really kick with that thing, but you could like do some groundwork. I could show you some side control stuff. He trained at Street Sports. And he was like, why don't you like come give it come hang out, you know? And it was like, I always knew I wanted to learn how to grapple. Cause like as a striker, you're like, okay, this is cool until they do that.
Like Muay Thai, it's the beginning of grappling, right? Some of the plump stuff.
Totally.
So you're already introduced to it.
Exactly.
You know how it feels.
There's grappling, and then I just like, you know, you get interested in watching fights, and then you watch UFC fights, and I'm like, I better not run into one of those dudes with those ears, dog, because I'm gonna get smoked, you know. And then when I had all my surgeries and I couldn't train, my buddy, once I kind of got cleared to like start doing some stuff, he was like, why don't you come to jiu-jitsu with me? He's like, you could learn some stuff from the bottom, like whatever. He's like, you should probably learn that anyways. And he took me there and I got smashed in side control.
Was that Big John? No.
No. No, it was this guy named Josh. And he took me over to Hanato's spot and he like put me in side control for like 5 minutes. And I was like, that was eye-opening and scary, and like, you know, because at that point I was like, I can kick pretty hard, I got good elbows, I know, you know, whatever, I don't think I'm great, but it was like I didn't realize how helpless you could be and how like none of that matters when you're on the ground. And then Hanato is amazing, and you know, I kind of like got the like Brazilian fun where he just like made it fun. He was like, he pulled me aside and talked to me, and then I just was like, well, I guess I'm adding a third one to the plate here. And just was like, I told myself, like, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu for 6 months until my ankle gets better. And then I can start trying. I'll learn how to get up, and that'll be that. And then
that's how we get you, right?
That's how you got me. That's how you got me.
Yeah, like, right.
We'll just learn how to get up. And then I ultimately just like fell in love with it immediately. Like after like 2 months, a couple of the coaches over there like really like pulled me aside, and it's that I think jiu-jitsu has this more than Muay Thai. Not that like Muay Thai doesn't have it, but jiu-jitsu has a thing where somebody will just be like, hey, come here. And like they like sat down with me after class for like 20 minutes, half hour, like, hey, this is what you're doing. Make sure, no, like, you know, and like sat me down, and then all of a sudden like I could like get out of side control from another white belt who had a couple more stripes on me, and I could do so. And that like light bulb thing of like, okay, I can do this. And like, these guys really are showing me. It was like that tour guide for jiu-jitsu when you first start, like just hooked me, because a lot of martial arts, I feel like you kind of go in and it's like, hey, you know, if you can survive the fire, you'll pull through it and you'll like learn how to do this stuff, you know. And jiu-jitsu, like, those guys sat me down and like taught me things, you know,
the mentoring aspect.
Because it's like the little things that like I still think about till this day. Like, when do you time things? When do you do stuff? And like, if they were just like, here's an armbar, it's not the same, you know. So like the family aspect and people really caring, and like that like hooked me immediately. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I do jiu-jitsu now, you know. And then I was like, okay, I got to get a blue belt so I'm not a Barney, you know. Like the white belt curse, you know. I had my white belt for a couple of years, and like I would just go to promotions and I'd just be like, please, you know. I don't care about belt color. Like I really don't now.
White belts are people too.
Well, it would be like, oh, well, you can't come to open roll on Sundays because that's blue belt or higher. Certain things, I was just like, God, just give me that damn.
There's
blue
that
belt.
the respect, right? We were talking about earlier. Like
Totally.
okay, and you've put in your work, so you should have some respect. But because there's no color on your belt, you don't get the respect.
Yeah.
In a way, you know, subconsciously.
It's a thing. Like I'm big on like once I got my blue belt, I was like, I don't care what belt I am. I really don't. Like, because it doesn't matter. You and I could flip-flop belts, and you're still going to be you, and I'm still going to be me. It doesn't matter what, you know, like, it matters. But ultimately, I feel like people chase that, and, like, I just want to be better. I just want to be better at jiu-jitsu, and, like, if I have...
Just not a white belt.
Yeah. There is a thing, like, that's the only one to me. Like, when you get past that, you're kind of like, all right, I'm one of the boys. You know, but when you still got that white belt, you're kind of like... People are kind of like, I don't know if I want to roll with that guy. You get picked last, especially if you're tall. You're like the big white belt. Everyone's like, I definitely don't want to roll with that guy, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. But since getting blue, it's been just kind of like, I don't know. I just want to get better at it and like challenge myself and just try to be better at jiu-jitsu, which is like, I feel like it ultimately gets like harder the more you know. So it's like I should be better than I am right now.
It just never stops. You know?
Yeah.
It just never stops. And I think that's we need that, you know, right?
Yeah.
That newness, that challenge. Yeah, we need that.
If there was an end game, I would be bummed. You know?
Yeah, it's a
Like-
lifestyle, you know. You just surrender to the process.
Totally. So, but yeah, I was stoked to get out of the white belt, and then ended up coming over here from John, which was great. And like transferring schools is also like another thing, you know, because I was like living in the Valley, but I was working on the West Side, and then, you know, there's all the things about like if you switch schools, they're gonna try to kill you.
Your
and
creanche,
yeah, like all that. So I just had this like nervous. I was so nervous because I remember I came over and talked to you, and I was like, hey, like try to do it the right way, like hey, whatever. And you were like, talk to Hanato, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to make that call because like you hear all this stuff, and he was just like, okay, I understand. And I was like, oh my God, okay. I was like worried about that call for like 3 days, you know? I was like, I don't
Respect. That's it though.
Oh, totally.
That's it.
You know? And I was like, I love you guys. I just don't work over here anymore. So like, that was one of like and then also coming to a new school. Nobody knows me. I'm just like.
Oh, you knew Big John, right?
I had like one in over here, but yeah, but inevitably like it's still trippy.
Right,
you know, like starting at a new school, like when you're visiting, you're like, oh, you're a visitor. Hey, what's up, man? Whatever. People are pretty cool. But when you're like starting and you're like consistent, and then like, you don't know if you can joke with people. You don't know who's cool. You don't know who's kind of like gets pissed about, or, you know, whatever. Like everybody here is honestly really cool.
Yeah.
But, and, you know, started here, and you and I had that crazy conversation before
bring that up.
Before the pandemic.
The pandemic, 2020, when they announced that, you know, we had to close everything. Well, we closed, I think, a day before we had to close, but you were the last person in the gym, and it just happened. You were hitting the bag,
Yep.
and everybody left. The lights were getting turned off, and we just, okay, what's gonna happen? We had like a crazy conversation, like end of the world conversation, like what's gonna happen?
See, I was just gonna say that was like a moment in time. That was really like, because that was the start of everything being shut down for like almost a year, and like you were the last human I saw in a martial arts gym, and like
everybody left, the lights were getting turned off, and then it was like me and you, just like a
what's gonna happen?
Yeah, what's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen? And it was just like this real weird, like, that is like a historical moment that we like shared together, where it's like the lights are coming off. We don't know when they're going to come back on. Are we going to have our friends? Are we going to have the sport we love? Are we going to have like the outlet how long is this going to be? Where's it going to go? And we both were just like, this sucks, man. This is crazy. And like, it was that like fear of the unknown, but like, that was a trip, you know? That was before I was even a student here.
Yeah.
And like, I think I just came here with John because John was like, they're still open. And I was like, can I go? He's like, yeah, they won't care. And I was like,
you were hitting
cool.
the bag.
Yeah. And like, but that like moment, and then like inevitably, like none of us trained for a really long time, or I didn't, you know? Yeah. And starting back up again was like real weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We didn't know what was going to happen. We spoke for, I mean, I don't remember how long it was, but it
At
seemed
least a half hour.
Yeah.
It was like that, like, this is really happening. And like, we like kind of went through it together, you know? I was like, and in my head, I was
You're like
like
hitting the bag, and then like just like the minute it was kept going. We were like sitting down and just chit chatting about it, you know?
I know. And you were in your head too. You were like, I have to close. I remember you telling me, you're like, I have to close. Like, I have to do this. And I was like,
Do the right thing to protect the community because we didn't know.
We didn't know. And then inevitably, like, I remember driving home and being like, this is so heavy. And like, I don't have a gym. You know what I mean? Like, my livelihood, my food on my table is not from something that may or may not exist in a couple months. You know what I mean? So I was like putting myself in your shoes too, where I'm like, what the hell do you even do right now? Like, my livelihood and the thing that I do is an industry that will not exist for the next year. Gyms weren't open, or here they weren't, you know? And then there was the aspect, even when we did open again, that like we were getting shit from everybody, you know? Like, I had DMs from people because I would post sometimes when we first started back up, people being like, you're the reason my grandma can't travel and got sick and all this stuff. And now I see like people at the gym, those same people like at big events, at stuff, at whatever. And I'm like, everybody judged everything we were doing, you know? And it was like, I just wanted to be like healthy.
Yeah, that's it.
And like that was a very weird time, because like, you know, whoever listens to this and like doesn't realize like the area that we're in, Burbank, was like witch hunting. It was like really intense, you know, with like the COVID stuff, like even more than like a couple towns over. It was like Burbank was like hijacking stuff. They were putting like cement gates around places that was place up the street. So I mean, I don't know, like it's really fortunate that like this all didn't, like, you were able to survive. You know,
it's thanks to you guys, you know, like we all came together. And I think with all the craziness, I think for me at least, it gave me peace of just having a community behind me, because we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, everything was up and down, up and down, up and down. And just having that sense of community gave me confidence. Like, everything's going to be okay as long as we have each other.
Yeah, because it's like
supply chains, like, you know, everything's closed. Like, you know, you're essential, you're not essential.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And then it was like, well, how do you fight the disease? Be in shape. Well, how do you get in shape? All the gyms are closed. McDonald's is open. Gyms are closed, you know? And it was like, I get where it was confusing on how to deal with it, but like that aspect of things, you know, like the hardest part for me was like the communal. Like, I'm a tribesman. Like, I need skaters, I need martial artists, I need like people like me around, and like, not like they have to be like me, but just like my people, you know?
I mean, the same with me. Like, for me, it's like therapy, just seeing everybody. And for me not to have, like, it's my life, you know? This is my life. Like, this is what I do. And to have that taken away from me, like, I mean, we did what we had to do, but man, like, I'm the one that's, you know, too, like I felt, you know, like I was, you know, I needed it, you know, I needed it, you know.
I mean, 100%.
Everybody needed it, you know.
Yeah, we all needed it. And then even like what I experienced too with like, I work in like the substance use and mental health field. They shut down all the AA meetings. They shut down everything. And it was like, you weren't even supposed to meet in person. You were supposed to have like Zoom and all this stuff. And it was like every therapeutic and communal modality got shut down for anybody that needed help. And it was like, well, that's always been all my answers for things was like
the group,
check out some 12-step meetings and go to therapy and go to some outpatient for recovery once you get sober and all these things. And it was like, oh, well, all that stuff I suggest, you can't do any of that either. And it was like, okay,
what's gonna happen?
Like, how are these people, when isolation is the number one thing with addiction and mental health, how are they going to get out of this if there's no place for them to not isolate? There's no home for them. They can't go to therapy in person, and they can't go to process groups and they can't go to 12-step meetings and they can't hang out with each other even. It's like, how is like,
doesn't make sense.
I just feel like I saw like the worst toll be taken on from like the pandemic, and not that like everybody didn't have like a rough aspect, but it was just like between like here and work and then like regular life, I was just like, everybody's paying the piper right now. Like, and the more that things went on, the more I'm glad they opened up, because it was just like, this is not like the mental health of this like country, and then like seeing how many like systems got broken. It was like, dude, we have to open back up, you know?
How did you get involved with your substance abuse?
When I was on crutches, I had no interest in being a substance use counselor at all. Zero. You know, like I have a family history with, you know, alcoholism in it. And I, you know, stopped drinking and using when I was 16, just because of like, I saw where this could go and I made this different choice. I got really into like the straight edge movement, if you know what that is.
Yeah. No alcohol, no drugs, nothing.
Yeah. And like, it's basically like sobriety with like a music movement kind of. And I got really into that just because it was like, well, I hated drugs and alcohol and what it was doing to my family. So I saw that and I was like, that's what I want to do, you know? So I had been around the whole process of like watching people get sober, being on like the family side of it. It's torturous. And so I knew about it. And then that same guy that showed me jiu-jitsu, Josh, he owned a treatment center, and I was bored. I was on crutches. My days off sucked because it was like I couldn't skate, I couldn't train. I would go to 24-hour fitness for like an hour and just do all the machines. And then I was kind of like, all right, well, I got 18 other hours to whatever. So I went and visited him out in Santa Monica, and I got stuck in traffic. I was going to leave. I was talking too much, and it was like 4:30, and I looked at traffic, and it was like 2.5 hours to get home. I was like that pre-COVID 405, you know, like from Santa Monica at 4:30 was just like, you might as well just like get a hotel at that point or something, you know? And he was like, I'm going to do a group if you want to come sit in, like, you know, you've been around this stuff, like come sit in. And I was like, okay, screw it. Like, it sounds better than sitting in my car and, you know, and I watched him do a process group, and it was like light bulb. I was like, oh, this is special. This is like changing people's lives. And like, I saw the way he interacted, and it was like, I was watching like how people were, and then I saw like different mannerisms my family members had, and I was just kind of like, oh man, I know what they're doing. They're like manipulating the situation, and then he's kind of like course correcting, and I was like, this is really cool. And then I asked him, I was like, can I come back next Friday? He's like, yeah, you can come back. He's like, I'll have you like shadow my guy if you want to like volunteer and hang out. I was like, totally. Can I? And so I volunteered for a while, and then I just took the dive and went to school for substance use counseling. You get like a certificate. It took like about 1.5 years. So I went back to school and did that, which was like crazy to go back to school after like 20 years of not being in school and like writing reports again, you know, in your 30s. But I did that, and then ended up meeting 2 of my best friends that later became my business partners through there. And we all kind of went our separate ways, but always had this idea like to do a rehab on our own and like do it our way, you know? Because inevitably, like, working for people's great, but like there's aspects that you're like, I would do this differently, or like I didn't like that, or, you know. And took us like about, I would say like 2 to 3 years of like planning and plotting. And I ended up opening, you know, with my friends, like we opened a spot last January. So
Congratulations. Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. And that has been a whole bag. I mean, you own a business. It's like anything can and will happen. When the roof leaks, you got to fix it. When something happens, you got to fix it. Like, I didn't know how many things happened until I started, you know, being like, you know, part of like a business team. But it's inevitably like, I'm so stoked, you know, as hectic as it is. I'm sure you're proud of Legacy. It's like, I'm really proud of like what we're doing and like putting our twist on it, you know.
What makes you guys unique? What kind of things have you changed that
Yeah.
make you guys special, or
I
that you thought that was good, that worked?
yeah. So I kind of took the things that I felt like worked. Like a lot of treatment can be, there's things that work, and then sometimes there's things that are kind of just like part of stuff that works in the industry, and it's kind of meant to keep you comfortable, you know? Because inevitably, like if I have you and I'm billing your insurance and you end up coming back, there's an aspect of that to where like that can be profitable for me, you know? Repeat business, even though people like never like set out to want it. There's things that like places do to make people comfortable, just so it's like, here, just like whatever you want, we'll do. So I like always wanted to have like a structured program where like it was kind of built off like honesty, like really good therapists. The groups are all really like tailored towards like how to like really prevent relapse, how to look in the past, like tools you can do to get out. And then also like we do yoga because I want people to move their bodies.
Yeah,
I have a chef that makes like quality good food. So people start treating their bodies better with like actual cooked meals that are like, it's not just like burgers and fries. Like she makes like,
Which makes a difference, right? Of the chemistry in your brain and your body.
I mean, you know, like if I saw the way I ate now 10 years ago, I wouldn't even know what the hell I was eating. Like I didn't eat kale. I didn't know what kombucha was. I didn't know what any of this. An acai bowl, never heard of it, you know? And then I have like, one of my friends who does Muay Thai comes on Sundays and just shows them like basic movements. I do breath work. We try to do a lot of stuff that incorporates like the spiritual body connection and then also like the therapeutic side. Like let's work through what you have to with like family dynamics, your past, whatever traumas you have. But then there's this like other aspect that like when you're in active addiction, you're not taking care of your body. So for 30 days, if you're doing breath work, doing yoga, eating better, sleeping better, feeling better, like inevitably you're going to be way more likely to do well, you know? And like we don't have like cake every day, we don't have like snacks, and it's like it's not like a prison or anything, but just like ultimately I try to do my best to like enforce good habits because inevitably that will lead to like success.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's like all I want for everybody that comes in is like, I don't think anybody goes to rehab to like not get it, but inevitably a lot of times things get in the way, and I try to do as much for people to progress as much as they can for like the short time that I have them.
That's cool. You guys, you're really into making a difference, not just going through the steps.
I try.
Doing your best to make a difference to get the results.
Yeah, and like a lot of times rehab will like, you know, you ever, what's that Marvin Hagler line where he's like, you know, you can't, it's hard to get out of bed in satin sheets, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of rehabs like that. They'll put you up in like the poshest house with the crazy amenities, you know, hot tubs, massages, acupuncture, and you're almost like rewarded for like having like gone to like the dark side. And not that like we don't punish anybody by any means, but it's like I really like think like really processing whatever actually happened is like the best case scenario. That like, you know,
start building the habits, right?
Totally.
Building the habits.
Start building the habits, getting
movement, nutrition.
Totally. Therapy. Like I'd rather have more therapy and less massage therapy because like therapy is actually going to like help you change your dynamics and your thought patterns to get you out of those situations.
I told you about my dad, right?
You mentioned it one time, but we were at the fight, so I didn't really get into it.
No, he was, he was in AA for 33 years. He passed away this last year.
Yeah.
But he made it, all the way through. Once he became sober,
That's amazing.
And dedicated his life to helping others do the same.
What was his story?
He was adopted World War II, something out of a movie, and he was adopted by a crazy, the mom was crazy, the dad left, but abuse, not sexual abuse, but like just abuse, when he was a kid. And he dealt with it by drinking, starting like my mom and all the, from New Mexico. So, that's how he dealt with it. It was just masking that trauma with drinking, and then he, lost it a few times, and then was able to be a dad, second dad, because my parents like separated, but he went back. I get to so I lived in New York, live out with him, and really got to see like what he does, and like the humility too of him, like that side.
Yeah.
Of like, you're gonna be an alcoholic. I'm gonna be an alcoholic till the day I die, and I'm one drink away from going down the thing.
Yep.
And like, man, a really powerful guy. He helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
He really dedicated his life to just helping all those around him.
That's like the special part to me that I like seeing is like those kind of stories. Like when you see the wins, and like you see somebody who was like really down and out, and then you see them go through the process, and then inevitably they have this like light about them where somehow this person who has this bad rap sheet, who like lost these things, did these things, all these negative things happen. Well, they're like now like the beacon, and they end up giving people like the rub, and then those people, it's this like weird trickle down for something, and like that's like another rad community that like has something that like you can't really have it unless you have it. You know?
I mean, it's like the same thing with that guy spending 30 minutes of his time to help you with your side control on the bottom.
Totally.
To escape, right?
He gained nothing.
Sharing
from
the love, and then you keep spreading it. Yeah,
Totally.
my dad went to Vietnam too. He's a Green Beret, and so like in PTSD and stuff didn't help, right?
Yeah.
But usually they say like that kind of stuff is with like childhood kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever get out any jams because of your dad, like just being in the military or anything?
As far as what, like
So my grandpa was in the Marines, and I, for some reason, have gotten out of so many jams with like cops, like skating or something, just by pulling that like military family.
Yeah,
card.
my dad, he was in college, and I guess in that time, like you had to, if you were in college, you didn't have to go. So he volunteered actually.
Yeah.
Because he believed in, not that he believed in the war, but he believed in, he didn't feel like it was right that other like young Americans were fighting over there, when he was, he was really grateful to be like an American citizen, just because he was, his story.
Yeah.
Like one of the abuses was the adopted mom was like, want to deport you, when he was a kid. So like one of the first things that the people did was make him a citizen, help him become a citizen. So he's just grateful for the opportunities he had to really make something
cool.
of himself, and so he volunteered, to go, and then he went all in, I guess.
That's amazing.
That's about,
Yeah.
But he just went in, for that time, So it wasn't really like a military, but he went all the way when he did.
Yeah.
The time he was, because he was an engineer who was really smart.
Yeah. Oh, he's an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
And then he taught himself computer programming. After he totally changed his career, and taught himself computer programming in the 90s. And did that.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
How did your parents feel about you fighting?
Interesting, right? Well, I never thought I would be fighting like MMA.
No?
No. I even, it's like I'm never gonna do that Valitudo stuff, I just enjoyed Jiu Jitsu how it made me feel.
Yeah.
Like it really brought out the best in me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my black belt, and I was like, okay, I want to see if this stuff works in the cage,
Yeah.
And then King of the Cage came to New Mexico, and then I just called him up. I was like, hey, can I get on?
And that was that?
Yeah, and then yes, sure. And then they put me on the undercard. Do you remember Dan Severn?
Of course.
So Dan Severn was the main event. And so then I went in, like, how much money do I get? They're like, like $300. I'm like, okay. Is there any other ways I can make something? And they're like, you can get percentage off your tickets. So I put like, $10,000 on my credit card, and then I went from being on the undercard to the semi-main event right before Dan Severn.
Wow.
And that was my birth into fighting MMA.
So you basically bought $10,000 worth of tickets on your own?
Yeah, I had a credit card. I was like, boom, let's do it. Because I had never fought in New Mexico, because I had always fought like in Brazil, all over the world,
right, in
jiu-jitsu. And so that was my time to, for people to see me.
And how did that fight go?
It was good. I won. I did a crucifix, and then they wanted me to fight again. And then they knew I wanted to fight the champion. And so they were like, okay. They ended up even canceling the next event because I wasn't going to fight on it. It was like, you lose money, right? Training for the fight, like $300, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so that was like, okay, like if you, because they knew I wanted to fight the champion, you know, and so they like, if you do this next fight, we'll give you a title shot. I was like, okay, sounds good, and so I did it, and I won, and then I got the title shot, and then I won, and then I kept going, and got to fight around the world, to fight in Japan, fight different places, you know, and have a career, you know. I fought for like 10 years. And I'm really grateful, man, just for all the things that I've been able to do with choosing this way, you know, this path.
Did the MS make you pull the ripcord? Is that what that was?
Well,
what made you stop?
Yeah, they didn't pass my medical. I didn't pass my medical, and so I couldn't be licensed anymore. My wife was super happy because she's like, you don't need to be fighting anymore. And my last fight was in the south of France, where I brought her as my corner. So it's like, it was like way to go out in the sunset, you know.
Wow.
A good fight for that, you know.
Did you kind of know that was going to be your last fight?
I didn't, but if it was, that was the way to do it. And so afterwards, I was like, that was the way to do it, you know.
Yeah, like hindsight, you're like,
yeah,
okay,
like I mean, I fought in a gladiator arena, like right on the Mediterranean. Like they said, like real gladiators fought there back in the. It was like old, you know, everything's old, right? It was at Montpellier, outside of Montpellier, in this island. And I fought. It worked out, you know. And I brought my wife as my corner. Of course, I had people there to help me corner and stuff. but you know, enjoyed the nice vacation. You know, after that, you know, rented a convertible and went down to Saint Tropez and all the con and all the stuff. You know, after that. So that was the way to finish your career.
Yeah. I mean, how do you get better than that? That really is like a weird movie situation. That's like a Van Damme.
Yeah.
Like ending a blood sport kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like I got my girl cornering me.
Yeah.
And like then we just chilled in Saint Tropez.
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
that's it. It worked out because it could have been different too, right? If it didn't work out, but I believe
that could have been way different. I mean, ultimately, I think that's pretty cool that like from the jump, you just like bet on yourself. Literally $10,000 worth.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably didn't have 10K at the time.
That was a credit card. I put it on my credit card. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
How did you pay that back?
I sold all the tickets and I made money.
Oh, you really did sell
I
them?
sold all of them.
Wow.
You know, I had already been, so it's 2002, so I already had a gym for a couple years. No, it was 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And of course, I had been teaching there for years before that in New Mexico, in a small town, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so when I was finally going to fight there, I had a lot of support.
Crazy.
And then
so the whole town came out.
Yeah, and you know Greg Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay, so I trained with him, and so all of the Albuquerque people came as well. You know, so I had like the whole stadium. So when I actually, and so when I fought actually for the title, like the whole stadium was chanting my name. You know, and so it was cool. It was cool.
It
was a pay-per-view event. I heard it was like right neck and neck with the UFC at the time, where BJ Penn fought Call Uno, and it was like their second fight, so nobody really cared about it.
Oh, crazy.
But the fight I had was with Javi Vasquez. It was like a big grappling event.
Yeah.
Went the distance, and a lot of people were talking about it, and it worked out, you know.
That's crazy. Wow.
But I had a lot of support, you know. A lot of years of helping people out, you know, those little 30-minute chats, you know.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, too, is like when you are authentic, I think people want to do right by. That's like, you know, that's with anything in my life. If somebody calls me and I know they're like that person and I know where their heart's at, like, of course I'm going to support that, you know? Yeah. Like, I'll do whatever. So, yeah, I'm sure when you put the bat signal out, it was like, oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was cool. Fighting at home, you know?
Yeah.
After all these years.
How is it watching fights now?
UFC fights or
like
jiu-jitsu?
Do you like MMA fights? Like, does it trip you out to like watch? Like, do you get the feeling of like, I want to get in there?
You know, I'm proud of my time when I was there because I was able to represent jiu-jitsu. You know, because in the early days you were representing your martial arts. Right. And I'm very proud of the days I did fight because I was representing jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I really believed in jiu-jitsu. Okay. And so I was able to, you know, do jiu-jitsu in the cage. Like I had like 15 wins, 14 by submission, you know.
Really?
Yeah. So like I was able to do jiu-jitsu, like the gentle art, you know, and like I watched the fights and, you know, I did want to fight some more, you know, but like I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful. I got to do it all.
Yeah.
From fighting all over to just everything we did. I lived to the fullest.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and it's probably for the best, because if maybe the brain stuff and maybe wouldn't have been good for me to have a longer career doing what I did.
So I feel like we almost have a parallel there, because I'm like, I don't think I'd ever be at the position of opening the rehab if my ankle never hurt itself. It would have taken something that gnarly to derail me to see the light for anything else. So I was all in, and maybe you feel that way about like fighting, where like, if I didn't have this brain thing, I don't know if I'd have my own gyms.
Also, like, I met Scott Sonnen, the creator of Tacfit, because of my first UFC fight. My first Jiu Jitsu coach in New Mexico was actually this Navy SEAL guy.
Okay.
And he's like, you got to meet this guy named Scott Sonnen. And he's did this protocol with me, and I learned all these things, and it was something I never forgot. One of the big things was I got thrown on my head, like somebody supleted me. And usually, it's like 4 to 6 weeks. You're in a lot of pain. You take pain pills, maybe even talk about surgery. And I was able to heal myself within like a week with movement. And I was like, this works. I can heal myself with movement. Like, what? Like, I never heard about that.
Yeah.
I never knew about that.
Yeah.
And he showed me, and then I always wanted to do it. And then fast forward, when this MS thing, and then sure enough, like, my subconscious took me to his cert, and the rest is history, man. It changed my life. It gave me everything back.
Yeah. Hindsight's always oddly 2020, where you're like, well, if I wouldn't have met him, then I wouldn't have had the answer to this thing that inevitably happened to me. And then now, like, I wouldn't have been able to share that with these people. It's like, I don't know. It's weird how like the chips fall into place, where like at the time it was the most devastating thing for me, but I would have never met my friends who I started the rehab with. I would have never opened it. The people who've had their experience with us and like are doing super good now would have never had that. You're just kind of like, wow, like.
Yeah, when I speak to you, you're into it. Like, you love what you do.
I love it.
When I speak to you, like, you love what you do.
Yeah.
You love making a difference. And I'm like, cool. I like that. That feels real to me. It's not just a business. It's not just like, I want to get some insurance money. You're like, I want to make a difference. And that's everything.
It's you. And when you asked me before, like, what makes the difference, is like, I'm there every day, like you're here every day. Your name's not on the wall. And then it's like, oh, Alberto Crane comes in once a month and does like a seminar and like, whatever. I see you here all the time. I run into you at least a couple times a week, and on open mats and stuff. And it's like, there's a reason that Legacy is successful. And any good gym where it's like, you can't stray too far from what you created. And I'm there every day, like I was late today to this, which I apologize for, but like, because of something that was happening there, like I had to deal with something that was coming up. So like I never want to be too far from it, and I never will be. Like, it will be something that like, when you're there and you're making sure something's good, then like it will run the way. And then inevitably people believe in what you're saying. If you were here once a month, I'd be like, oh, he's like a satellite gym owner and like using his name, and it is what it is. Yeah. But you're the opposite of that. Yeah. You know all your students, you talk to everybody, you're on the mats with us, you teach classes. It's like, that's inevitably what will lead to anybody's success. And you have to love what you're doing to do that, And I like a desk job, and I don't care what anyone else does. Just for me, like, if I had a job that like I just didn't care about, I don't know what I'd do. I've been only having jobs that I was so fired up about, either working in skating or working in substance use and mental health. Like, I love it. And like, I like need that with everything I do, like I don't like downtime. I don't like, not like meaningless stuff, cause I really don't want to sound like a high horse or anything, but like, I need that like reason. I need reason for everything.
Your why.
And like, you have it. I can tell you have it with everything that you're doing. And like, I want people to have that and get that experience when they come to the rehab. And everybody that I work with has the same thing. I don't have any like stragglers, because it's like, they're going to have to be around us and like, you know,
You guys will know.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's like,
not gonna work.
It's like a battle cry, you know, like you got to have that. And like, I look for that in everything, and like inevitably if something doesn't have that, I stray from it, which is like why I think I've just stayed on the same path of just like the stuff that I know I love, and like I can't get enough of it, you know.
Love it. Love it.
So
What's the name of your rehab facility?
Refine Recovery.
Refine Recovery.
Yep.
.com?
Yep, refinerecovery.com. And I, you know, I always wanted to be that place where like I'll help anybody. But there's like the tribal aspect to skateboarding, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever, that, you know, like inevitably as we expand, I want to get more involved with my communities because like we're all stubborn as hell, you know? And like for that person that like may be struggling with something like, and like it could mean like, oh, that guy does jiu-jitsu, maybe I'll give him a call, he might understand where I'm coming from, you know. Like I want to be that place where like I don't like to ask for help for anything, but I'll talk to you about Tacfit because my knee hurts and something else hurts. I'll ask you for help. God forbid I go ask anyone else like outside of my community.
Yeah.
And I just know that's a thing. So inevitably, like I want to expand, you know, to like the things that I love, and like, you know, put the bat signal out there, you know, so to speak, of like, if you need help and you're struggling with something, like, please hit me up. And even if I can't help you, if you don't qualify for a program, like I will find you help, you know, I'll do whatever I can, because like it sucks asking for help, but also like the amount of people that like we've all seen go down in martial arts from substance use, those people who you're like, man, if they would have just asked or something would have happened, or, you know, like it's like a phone call away, you know? So I want to inevitably try to be like a sounding board for that, because like the last thing I want is like any more of like our like brotherhood and sisterhood to like go down from like substance use or mental health. Cause like you get sick of like funerals and terrible stories and stuff, and it's like, it just doesn't have to happen.
Doesn't have to happen.
So, you know, and, my Instagram is Shark Justice. It's a stupid name.
Shark Justice.
So
Professor X was asking me what your Instagram was, and I was like, Casey, and then Shark Justice. Okay, I knew it was something different.
It was like right when Instagram started, and it was like a stupid joke, and now it's like people know me as that.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes like there's too many people that you know with like all the stuff you like to do, and inevitably sometimes you just know people by like their Instagram names.
Yeah,
and like I have people that know me, they're like, oh, Shark Justice, and I'm like, I can't change that shit, man. I'm gonna
What's the story behind it?
Oh God, it's so stupid. Back in the day, before like anything on the internet, there was message boards. I don't know if you remember this, like music, martial, everything had message boards, and then there would always be like one that was hot where everyone would go and like talk shit. And there was this band that I hated. The dudes in the band were lame. All of my friends hated them, and like it was just like the place you'd go to talk shit, you know. So like, you know, we're like 16, 17, like talking shit on this message board, but you have to create a name. And so I created, I don't even know where I got it from, Shark Justice, and I would write to them and be like, when you play that show, I'm going to show up and I'm going to drag you into cold, dark waters that you've never seen. Just all these like stupid shark references that
and
like.
You kept it for Instagram.
It was my email. And then when Insta popped up, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to just like put my name. That's lame. And then one of my friends was like, you need to make it Shark Justice. And I was like, all right, cool. And then it stuck. And then it's just such like a weird name that, that like people know me as that now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm fine with it. It's like, I don't know. It's stupid, but I ended up kind of just liking it because it's like, I don't know, like put my name official or something. It's like, I don't know. It's just a stupid name. But yeah, but I mean, if anybody ever wants to like hit me up or, you know, private message me if you have anything that you know, need help with or anything, like inevitably I just like being in the helping business and want to like, you know, whoever needs something, if I can help them, like, I mean, why wouldn't I, you know? So
Thank you, brother.
Thank
you
you,
for
man.
the work you do.
Appreciate you,
And I
man.
appreciate your friendship.
Of course. Same, man. This was awesome. Thank you.